Hi everybody, so this is a tutorial for applying texture to our Lego men. Right now it's basically without anything, but you can see that I have everything divided into its various parts and everything colored right now. If I press 4, the wireframe shows that these are various colors. So pressing 4 on the keyboard will give a wireframe mode, pressing 5 will give a display mode, and 6 will give a rendered mode. So I want to basically turn off this reference image and start with modeling the head. So I've run into a few issues with this, but hopefully I'll get through what I feel is the most easiest way to do this. This is about a 20-minute tutorial, so just bear with me and listen or go forward if you'd like to. Right now, I have this head, and I've listed it with, or it's been listed with the various components. So we have the head shape. This is where the color comes in, the initial shading group, and Lambert 1. So Lambert 1 is unique because it is the material that's assigned to this cylinder. And really, each part of this Lego Man has Lambert 1 assigned to it as the default texture. So that gray texture that you see is something that shouldn't be deleted and should stay within the basic model throughout. It's just an easy way to look at the model. But if I wanted to apply a new texture, which I want to do, I want to apply that face from a UV map, I need to go ahead and create a new material. And by doing that, I'm right now, instead of in the poly or the sculpting, I'm in the rendering window. And the rendering window has all these different materials that you can assign to it. And I usually go towards assigning what is the blend material for this object. So this material is called blend 1, and it looks kind of like it has a sheen to it, as most of these do. This is, if you hover over the blend material, it should come up and list it as such. Same with the Lambert, Phong, and Phong E. These are really the 6 materials that most people go to. And in the blend material, you can change a ton of different things. But one thing it has different from the Lambert is the specular shading. So if I want to up eccentricity, it'll give it more of a shine, and so forth. Like if I wanted to put the reflectivity up, this is kind of how you would create various materials within Maya. So like creating glass or maybe like a cloth material. So I'm actually just going to stick with this blend 1. And in this blend 1, there is something that like each one of these windows has next to it, or each one of these modifiers has next to it, which is kind of like a checkered box. And if I click the checkered box, it'll allow me to upload various kinds of materials or attributes to render this head to be something different than what it is with just the Lambert default material. In our tutorial, we're asked to do this kind of to upload a file, which is a JPEG or a PNG of the entire body, various parts of the body. And if I go over here, this is kind of like a configuration map to what we would be loading up. Now, I'm going to run through this and say that these are meant to be the polygons. So what these lines are represent faces of each individual polygon. So this is the entire upper body. This is the legs and the lower body, left and right arm. Actually, it says left arm twice, which I just realized, but who's to say what that means? But I noticed when I did this face that I couldn't do this kind of like rectangular UV texturing or application of the UV texturing onto my model. So I went about it in kind of a different way. Anyhow, so back into this render node, I'm going to upload the file, and by clicking that file upload, it takes me into into another window inside the blend material. So this blend material can then be recalibrated to be whatever file you want. And by doing that, I'm going to click this folder tab icon. I'm going to go into my Lego kind of like images, which has the side images and also has what was uploaded before, the Van de Dark Flame. And when I tried to do just the face, it didn't really work out. So I'm going to stick to this this Van de Dark Flame. This is just the face was just something I kind of went off on a tangent on my own. But I think that this structure here is really what applies to this whole thing here. So I'm going to open that. And that takes me into basically giving me this sample one file for this one object. And that is the blend material. And it kind of maps out over that entire object. Right now I'm in the perspective window, so we can see that nothing has been applied to this model. And I want to find a way to get this, this sample, this blend material, onto this surface. So I'm going to go into what's called the UV editor. And again, we see this file uploaded in the UV editor and with my head selected. Now, the tutorial says to go into planar mode, and that was actually one of the easier ways to do this. So with my head selected in object mode, I'm going to go ahead and go to UV and go to planar. Now in planar mode, I want to make sure that I can actually see this JPEG or this PNG or this bitmap kind of mounted on this surface. So I'm going to press 6 on my keyboard, and that kind of gives a view of where it is and what it looks like mapped out in planar mode. Now, in this whole UV toolkit, which I have listed off to the side, which you can actually upload, is where you're going to kind of adjust various parts of the planar or of the actual model. And I'm going to go ahead and select object mode just so you can see that you can select various components in different parts of this kind of graph. So UV and UV shell does something different. It gives all these little vertices around the object that can then be changed. But these are actually not vertices. They're actually points along in here that correspond to what is the U and the V axes. So U is like Y, V is like X. And that can all be changed through these different points and these different selections. So it's a lot of options. For me, what I found most helpful is really just being in these two, which is UV shell and UV. These are also very helpful and might work out. And right now I'm in the UV toolkit. So you can again do object, edge, and vertex from the actual 3D cylinder rather than the UV map. But I got to get this UV head down to the shell of it, down to this face. And the way that I found to do this in the UV editor, now notice I'm in the UV editor window as opposed to the perspective window. Again, I can go into this and use these different tools, so W, E, and R on my keyboard. So selected as face mode, I'm going to actually move this this head around, this cylinder around, and you can see that it kind of like adjusts what it looks like. And I really want to get it down into this cylinder. This rectangle. So for me, the easiest way to do this is to press the W, E, and R buttons on my keyboard. And I'm in R right now. I'm going to minimize the head to be about so. Press W, move it over, move it up, And I'm going to center it on her face. I'm going to press Option, center, click on my mouse, press R again, and pretty much get the head so the top and bottom of the cylinder line what is this whole rectangle. Now, in doing this, I noticed that for me, the face didn't match what this configuration would be. So they have a polygon that's kind of rectangular that sits inside of this rectangular uh, graphic for the face. And obviously in this model, I have what's this planar mapping that is shaped like the cylinder on a 2D plane. The issue becomes when I rotate this head and I see that the face is doubled up. This graphic for her eyelashes and eyes and mouth are doubled up. And that's something that I just don't want, right? Like I only want it to be on one side of the body. I don't want a two-sided head. So this is where that cut tool became pretty useful. So right now I'm in face mode, and I am in face mode in the UV editor. I can be in different modes here. So if I go to object mode, it switches to object mode over here. If I switch to face mode, it switches to face mode over here. But these are two different types of windows. So I'm just actually going to select these faces. To be honest, I'm going to select it over here in the perspective. And because I know that I just want this side of the body. I don't want the face to be on this side of the body. I want it to be on that side. And I'm going to select these faces, pressing, again, I'm in face mode. And I'm going to shift select all of these faces where her eyelashes basically end. If there's a little bit of her eyelash, I'm selecting that face. And those are kind of, you can see them, they're kind of highlighted in orange. I'm going to go up to UV, and I'm going to go to cut UV edges. And now all these edges should be cut out. And I'm going to individually click each one and drag them into the yellow area. So right now you can see that that particular image is now changed. I'm going to do it again here. I'm going to drag it over and place it kind of next to it. Same with this one. And I don't want to get lost in where these, I get kind of lost in seeing these planes because I know they're doubled up here. So I'm clicking down in the perspective window, and again, I'm dragging them off to the side where there might be some other kind of yellow area that doesn't have her eyelashes. And that's how, and these can overlap, I'm pretty sure. But in looking at this head, it now has kind of like a different appeal. If you really look closely, like some of this stuff doesn't match up. Like the lines like right here and right here don't match up. And that has to do with how this graphic was made. So there's different ways I can flip some of these in the UV toolkit window. I can go down to transform and go down to flip, and it'll flip how that that kind of image is presented on the 3D model. It doesn't really help here because you can see that there's two shades of yellow and it doesn't match up. But this flip mechanism might become useful for other things. So even if I want to move it up a little bit or down a little bit, it might help match up. You can see that now these two edges are kind of matched up. So that takes some trying patience to match up what that would look like. But you can see that even here, there's a different color of yellow that doesn't quite match up. So maybe there's another way I can do that. But generally, that's what the head will look like. In object mode here, now I'm in a different gimbal. If I press E, I can rotate this head along that gimbal so that it's centered on the body itself. If I rotate in here, doing something different, like using the tools here to rotate the head, it'll really mess things up. So just to kind of give you a show, and this is something that I figured out, I can't really move this I can't use the same tools to move my head here. So by pressing R or pressing this R, you can see how it'll switch up what that head looks like. She'll be kind of like this strange kind of expression, more or less. So yeah, that's the basic rundown for the head, and that's what you can do to cut the edges to map on the rest of the body.